everyone, welcome to another episode of Completely Compounded. I'm your host Leo, and today's guests are Kyle and Heidi. Today we're going to be making gels. So to start it off, Kyle, could you explain a little bit more about what a gel is?
So basically, gels are semi-solid systems consisting of suspensions that have drug particles and molecules dispersed by a liquid. And they have various types of administration that can be utilized by this, and Heidi's going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So gels are great because they can use, they are used for multiple different delivery systems. So they can be combined with many substances. And then on top of that, they have multiple routes of administration. So they can be used orally, topically, intranasally, vaginally, and rectally.
And today we're going to show you some basic gel delivery systems that can be used topically. You might see these in the pharmacy as a Voltaren gel or a metronidazole vaginal gel.
Okay, great. Let's get started with our first gel. So now we're set up to make our first gel, which is a carbomer gel. And the generic name for that is carboxyvinyl polymer or acrylic acid polymer.
So carbomer gels have multiple delivery systems that can be used. Specifically today, though, we're going to be making an external gel, but it can also be used for controlled release tablets as well as oral suspensions.
And of the many carbomers on the market, we are choosing to use carbomer 940. It has a pretty decent viscosity of 40 to 60,000 centipoise, which measures the thickness of the gel we're going to be producing. You can compare that to ketchup that you might have at home. It's going to be a little thicker than that, but that just gives you an idea of what we're using. This specific carbomer is very good in these thick formulations, and it also doesn't leave a residue on the skin after you use an application.
Now that we know what a carbomer gel is, Kyle is going to show us supplies and ingredients that we need to make it today.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get set up, and then we will talk about calculations and actually get into making the gel. You're going to need a hot plate. We won't be using the heating mechanism on this. We only need the stirring part. Go ahead and grab two different beakers, 400 ml and a 150 ml. Of course, we're going to need a stir bar, a sifter, and then we're going to have two different dispersing mediums since this is a two-phase gel. Go ahead and get the ethyl alcohol 190 proof, and then you're going to need about 120 milliliters of purified water, and go ahead and separate that into 90 ml and 30 ml as we will use those separately. The polymer of choice, our carbomer here, go ahead and set that out, and I've already measured out what we need in a weigh boat. And then the trolamine, that is our neutralizing or alkalizing agent. That's going to help bring down the pH of our gelling agent carbomer here. Go ahead and grab a syringe for the trolamine. It's very viscous, and this is going to be the easiest way to get the desired amount into our beaker. After that, go ahead and grab the final container. Set that aside. You're also going to need a dosing strip because we are going to want a final volume. That's what the two separate beakers of water are here for. We're going to go ahead and measure that out and know how far up in the container we're going to need to go. And then the final ingredient we need is a funnel to make sure that we get all of our ingredients into the container. And then now we have one calculation step to show you. Heidi's going to walk through that with you.
So as Kyle mentioned before, we do really only have one calculation that we need to do for the carbomer gel. But before we do the calculation, we decided to scale the final volume down just because it does make such a large amount. So we're going to take it from 450 milliliters to 120. So in order to scale the rest of the ingredients down, you need to divide all of the original numbers by 3.75, and that's going to give you 85.7 milliliters of the rubbing alcohol, and then 0.6 grams of the carbomer 940, and then 0.8 milliliters of the trolamine. So the only major calculation that you have now is, since our final volume is now going to be 120, you need to do 25% of that, and then that's going to give you your 30 milliliters, which Kyle mentioned in the video that's going to be separated into the 90 and 30 milliliters to make the gel.
Alright, so now the fun begins. We're going to start going through this step by step, and hopefully at the end we're going to have a nice finished gel product. So first off, what we need to do is just measure out in your empty container 120 milliliters of purified water. Once you do that, go ahead and take your dose sticker here and go ahead and mark that. And your final product is going to look like this. And I'm going to go ahead and set this empty one aside since this one is already complete. After you get your dose sticker on here, you no longer need the water in there. Go ahead and dispose of that. And then now you just have your empty container. So step one, we're going to take 25% of our purified water and put that into our 150 ml beaker. After that, our next step is to add the trolamine. After our calculations, we should have 0.8 milliliters. Just go ahead and add that to the purified water. And we can set that aside for now. We're not going to use that until we get done with our alcohol and carbomer mixture. So step two, we're going to measure out 85.7 milliliters of our alcohol. Go ahead and add that to the 400 milliliter beaker. And then after we do that, go ahead and drop your stir bar in. Go slow on your stirring speed here because we're going to have to try to find that happy medium. We don't want to create a vortex because that's going to interrupt how the carbomer is dispersed in there. We want a pretty good speed. Right now I'm at 280 RPMs. And we're just going to play with it until we get it good, because this carbomer is very known for clumping, and if we don't sift it in correctly, we're not going to have a uniform gel in the end. So 400 RPMs seems to be the magic number. Each of these plates could be different, but I would start here and adjust as necessary. So the next step is we're going to sift the carbomer in and just drop your weigh boat in there. I'd already measured out the 0.6 grams, and then just use your sifter here to get all that in there and try to get it as uniform as possible. So as you can see, as you're sifting this in, you're going to have some trouble with some clumps that are already formed in the sifter. So go ahead and grab a metal spatula and just work that through the sifter the best you can. You can try to work it to the side. Just take your time, try to pace yourself and get that in there, because we really do need all of the carbomer into the alcohol in order to get the uniform gel at the end. Okay, so now that we've got all that, we can set that aside. Let it mix for just a couple more seconds there before we move on to the next step. And now we're going to actually transfer this into our bottle. Go ahead and grab your funnel that you've got set out and take that off of the stir plate. Okay, we can set that aside for now, and now we've got step 3. We've transferred the alcohol mixture into the bottle, and now from before we have our trolamine and water. We're going to pour that in using the same funnel as before. Okay, now that we have that in, go ahead and cap it, and then just mix well. You don't have to shake too vigorously here. Just get it going, and you'll notice that it will start thickening up in a matter of seconds. Okay. Air bubbles is a big thing here. There's really no way to avoid those other than not shaking too hard. Okay, and now that we have added both of those steps together, you can see that we are very close to our quantity sufficient line of 120 total volume. So just the water that we have set aligned, do your best to add, you're not going to need much at all because we're already to the line that we need to be. So once we add that in, the final step is just to incorporate that water into the gel, and then we have a final product of carbomer, 0.5% and 50% alcohol. This is a topical gel. As you can see, as we stated before, this does make a nice clear gel. Okay, so now that we've added the final quantity sufficient water to our total volume of 120 milliliters, we have a final product of the Carbomer 0.5% gel and 50% alcohol. And we can go ahead and test it out. You can see that we have made a good gel. We've got no drippage going on. And just take a little bit and test it out, and you'll notice that it is very uniform and you don't get any gritty or film left on your skin after application. So now that we have successfully completed this gel, the first thing we need to do is clean up our area, and then we will move on to part 2 of this, and we'll show you how to make a Methucell gel. Okay, so now we are set up to perform a cellulose gel. Particularly, we're going to be using the Methucell E4M product. You can also see this referred to as Hypromelos. It's going to be a thinner gel than the Carbomer that we just performed, and another fun fact about it is probably going to leave a film after application of the topical product. As you can see, this is going to be a little simpler than the other one. We don't have as many products. Let me just run through our ingredients and supplies that we're going to need here. We'll get set up, and there's no calculations that we need to do on this. We just need to measure out the proper dosage, a little bit of water, and then I'll walk you through the process of making it. So go ahead and grab a 400 milliliter beaker and go ahead and pull out your hot plate. We are going to be using the heat and the stir on it this time. Pull out 98 milliliters of water. Go ahead and get 2 graduated cylinders, because half of that is going to be heated up for when we incorporate the Methucell, and then we're going to put in the cold other half at the end to start the gelling process. You will need some Methucell. I've got 2 grams weighed out in the boat here. Of course, we are going to need a sifter because we want the finest particles that we can get in our mixture. And just in case we have trouble incorporating that, I do have the metallic spatula here. Again, we are going to have our normal 4-ounce container here for our final product. And then when we incorporate the cold water, it is purified water, we're going to put some blue food coloring in there so we can kind of watch the gelling process as it takes time. So our first step in this is take half of your purified water, it's 48 milliliters, and add that to the beaker along with your stirring bar. And we're going to heat this up because we're not going to be able to incorporate the Methucell until we get some good steam going on the side of the beaker. So now that we have heated up the first portion of water, I've got my heat turned to 400 degrees Celsius just so we didn't have to wait so long to incorporate the steam on the side of the beaker. And again, I have my stir bar going at about 400 RPM. So now that we do see the steam on the inside of the beaker, we're going to sift in the Methucell and incorporate that. After we fully get this sifted in, we're going to wait about 30 seconds and let it mix in. This is a much finer powder than the Carbomer. As you can see that it was easy to get through the sifter. So while we're waiting for that to incorporate fully, now's a good time to add a couple drops of food coloring to our cold purified water. 1 or 2 drops should be more than enough there, and we'll just let that incorporate in. And you just need to watch your mixture here. You want to make sure you don't have any clumps, and once it's heated and free of clumps, after about 30 to 45 seconds, we're just going to turn the heat off there, and we're going to continue to stir. We need that to go, and we're going to add our 49 milliliters of cold purified water, and then we're going to continue to let that stir for 1 minute. Okay, our final step really now is we're just going to transfer that to our empty container. Smart idea to use a funnel unless you're steady-handed. You can try your luck. So now that that's been mixing for about a minute, we're just going to incorporate that to our final container, and then we'll cap it. You'll notice that the gelling process has already started. And we'll turn our stir off. So we're going to cap, and then we're just going to allow it to cool, and it will continue to gel. You'll notice this from time to time. It will continue to gel as we let it sit. The side note on this, it does need to be stored in the refrigerator. And the beyond use date, since this is a topical product, is only going to be good for 30 days. So as you can see, we let this cool for about 15 minutes, and it's really starting to gel up nicely. It's not as thick as our carbomer gel, but it definitely has a nice viscosity to it. And then if you use a little bit of it, it has a feel like aloe vera would. It definitely leaves a residue on you or a film, but it was a success overall. Now we're going to move on, and Heidi and Leo, we're going to talk to you about counseling and possible therapeutic uses, and then we will clean everything up, make sure we have a clean workstation, and we'll be complete.
Well, thank you, Kyle, for all that. So now we're just going to do some counseling points on our gels. The first one I have is a cardboard gel. It's usually found in cosmetics like makeup and shampoo. For storage, make sure that you tightly cap it. Store it in room temperature and away from sunlight. Wash your hands before and after applying it, but don't apply it on open wounds.
And then for the Metho-Seal, just a couple differences is that this one does need to be stored in the refrigerator, but its most common uses are also found in cosmetic products, as Leo said. And then in a sterile environment, they can also be used for eye drops and eye gels as well. Just to reiterate, make sure you wash your hands before and after use, and then make sure the cap is always on tightly when you close it. And then just try to avoid any, like she said, wounded areas or orifices on the body.
That's all we have for you today. Kyle is cleaning up over there. But thank you, Kyle and Heidi, for coming onto the show, and I'll see you next week on Completely Compounded.